Hello everyone and welcome to Bear News as we take a look at the upcoming Blood Bowl 3. Now a few quick things to mention as I'm recording this on the 4th of June 2021. Blood Bowl 3, if we check on their Steam page, is currently set to release in September of 2021. However, there has been mention, particularly over on IGN, of possibly this game being delayed until February of 2022. And then if we have a look at Cyanide Studios' official website, we have the release date of August 2021. Basically, the exact date of release for this game really is up in the air. But from these, we can guess that it'll be in the later half of 2021 at the earliest, and the latest early 2022. And for those of you who just want to give a sneaky try at Blood Bowl 3, you can go over to Nacon right now to apply for beta access. And if Nuffle's willing, perhaps you'll get in. Now for those of you who don't know about Blood Bowl, here's a little bit of the history. Blood Bowl is a long-running tabletop board game created by Games Workshop all the way back in 1986. Based off American football, Blood Bowl pits the races of the Warhammer Fantasy universe against each other in the ultimate brutal spectacle of sport. With such a long history to the franchise, there have inevitably been many changes to the rules and factions involved in the game. And this is not just on the tabletop. In 1995, a version of Blood Bowl was released for MS-DOS by Strategic Simulations Incorporated, and it would be a long time until a Blood Bowl game was released again. In fact, in 2004, Cyanide Studio actually released a game called Chaos League, a real-time game with such similarities to Blood Bowl that they were in fact sued by Games Workshop initially. From the interactions between Cyanide and Games Workshop, Cyanide Studios was eventually given the license to create a Blood Bowl title, with the Chaos League title actually being assigned to Games Workshop as part of their agreement. With such a strange beginning to the franchise, it wouldn't be until 2009 that Cyanide would release their first official version of Blood Bowl onto Windows computers. Now, Blood Bowl is an extremely niche game, not only due to its history as initially being a tabletop board game linked to a long-running fantasy franchise, but also being a turn-based strategy game set within a sports franchise. Despite this, it has garnered a strong and loyal community of players, even going on to act as a de facto keeper of rules for the Blood Bowl franchise, and actually being utilized by Games Workshop themselves when they revitalized the tabletop editions of Blood Bowl itself. Now in 2015, Blood Bowl 2 was released across multiple platforms, introducing new races and teams into the mix, as well as the ability to field mixed teams from multiple factions, setting Cyanide Studios up to be the ultimate resource for Blood Bowl players around the world. So with that set out, what can we look forward to in Blood Bowl 3? Well, as I had said before, Games Workshop has revitalized the Blood Bowl franchise within their own tabletop games, meaning new factions, new inducements, new rules and new features have been introduced. And many of these have come about thanks to working closely with Cyanide Studios, and many of these teams even being present in the trailer releases for Blood Bowl 3. Now something I'm extremely interested in, which is quite sad to say given a multiplayer game, is there will be solo campaigns to all races. The AI in Blood Bowl is renowned as not being so great. However, it's still good fun to play a few matches, testing out different teams, and just enjoying yourself in a relaxing game, which unfortunately in Blood Bowl 2 was limited to playing through leagues on your own, something that is not particularly fun compared to Blood Bowl 1 where you traveled around the old world, taking part in different leagues and tournaments, trying to improve your team so you could eventually make your way to the Blood Bowl Championship. And on the note of multiplayer, they have improved the competitive mode with new league management features and an official ladder. Now the ladder to the side, as that's not something I'm personally interested in, though good luck to anyone who wishes to join, new league management features has been direly needed. Trying to organize a league with your friends on Blood Bowl 2, very possible and does follow a strict set of rules. Once you get used to it, it is fairly easy to do. It's also maddening trying to learn how to do it. The sheer quantity of changing screens, finding the team, sending them an invite, sending yourself an invite, exiting league management to enter team management, to then accept the invitation to exit out of team management into league management, to enter the league you wanted to be in, to start the competition you wanted to do, to then invite the players you wanted into that competition and schedule the match and finally play it. Which when you have a cold is extremely difficult to say. So any kind of improvement that will streamline that system is going to be greatly appreciated. Now Blood Bowl is not your simple game of sports. You will also have access to multiple special play cards. These include various inducements, from bribing a referee, gaining an additional apothecary, for reasons that will promptly become apparent when you're playing with goblins, all the way through to the inclusion of mages to drop magical fireballs that may or may not take out half a team. And this is really what makes Blood Bowl such a unique experience. The base sports play is extremely well balanced and very good fun, but it's the fantasy elements that really set it out from any other game there is, and also what allows the game to work so well. Whether you're winning or losing, you can actually have an extremely good season on Blood Bowl simply by pleasing the crowd. Essentially, there's no good or bad situation in the game, it's more about how the story plays out as you go. And if we check the official trailer, then we can see there is a large focus on the spectacle at play within this game, highlighting the differences between teams, showing off customizable bowls, different stadiums, different cheerleaders, different referees. All of these make for some excellent additions to the game, making it a lot more interesting to play, particularly when you're getting into the multiplayer side of things and playing match after match after match. And that variation is really going to be welcome when you're playing like that. Let's take a look at their Black Orcs trailer. Now this is a brand new faction introduced into the game. Orcs have always been present in Blood Bowl, though they have not focused so exclusively onto the Black Orcs as the Black Orcs team does, removing all use of regular orcs in favor of more Black Orcs, a troll, and replacing that throwing and catching game with goblins. And I hope just by reading that team roster out, it really gives some idea of what sort of things you can expect from this game. The trailer does a great job of showing off some of these new abilities that will be introduced. The Brawler skill, for example, looks to be an extremely useful one, giving the player the ability to re-roll one both down result without having to move into using their team re-rolls to do so. Of course, such a good ability has to be made balanced, and this rule does not come into play if you have blitzed. For those who are new to the Blood Bowl franchise, the game is based around a selection of different actions. Players can move, block, blitz, pick up the ball, throw the ball, and foul. All of these are going to be useful throughout each game, with different teams focusing on different styles of play. The objective of the game is of course to score touchdowns and win the game, but unlike a normal game of American football, you do not actually need to do this by playing with the ball. Instead, you can simply take out your opponents, knocking them out, injuring them, or even killing them, and reducing your opponent's team to nothing. This can be done by tackling when you're in base contact, blitzing, which is a tackle where you move first, knocking them off the pitch and into the crowd who do not take to such things nicely, or simply fouling them when they're on the ground. Anything goes in Blood Bowl, and all is allowed, so long as the ref doesn't see you or you've paid your bribes promptly. And a great contrast to the Black Orcs is the Empire Nobility. Now this team is based more around using specific characters for specific roles. The perfect example of this is a thrower. Just as the name would suggest, this player is really designed to throw the ball. They have skills that will allow them to re-roll failed attempts to pass, something that's incredibly useful as trying to keep your team re-rolls to the worst possible situations is kind of a must in all Blood Bowl matches. Now something to consider for new players coming in is that this is not like your traditional strategy game. This is a tabletop dice game. That means RNG is king, and the Great Lord Nuffle is just as likely to give as they are to take. Looking over at the Steam page, we can see some really nice information about Blood Bowl 3. There's plenty of descriptions of the various customization options available, as well as some of the increases to variety brought into this game following the disappointment of the initial release of Blood Bowl 2, as well as some considerations towards solo play, which is something I am particularly looking forward to, and finally some of the updates coming to their multiplayer. Now with all this variety coming into the game, this really is going to be the best time to join the Blood Bowl franchise and see just what the old world of Warhammer Fantasy has to offer. And for those of you who aren't sure, I should note that right now the Warhammer Skulls Festival is currently offering sales on the original Blood Bowl titles, with Blood Bowl 2 Legendary Edition currently selling for 920 yen, or about £6 sterling, whereas the original Blood Bowl 1 Legendary Edition comes in at 296 yen, or just shy of £2 sterling. Basically now would be a good opportunity to buy one of the older games just to test it out and see if this is for you, before really considering Blood Bowl 3, which of course will be coming out at a higher price. Now for fans of the series, this game is kind of a no-brainer, and if you've enjoyed the previous, you will enjoy this, particularly given that Cyanide really listened to the community after the release of Blood Bowl 2, and have expanded the roster on initial release. But for those first-timers to the Blood Bowl franchise, if you enjoy a competitive multiplayer, or if you simply enjoy the fantasy world of Warhammer, this is certainly a game to take a look at, especially now a full story campaign is included for each of the factions. But as I said earlier on, this is definitely a niche title. So, what do you think? Will Blood Bowl 3 be the next big stop? For hardened fans, what teams will you be playing as? And for those first-time viewers, how exactly does a turn-based American football game set in a fantasy world look to outsiders? Looking forward to your answers. And as always, peace out.